Welcome to Families in Action on your hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. I'm Cary Quashen. I am your co-host. My other co-host is Michael Doherty. We call him the Silver Fox.
How you doing, Cary?
KHTS. I'm good. I had a really a good weekend. My daughter, you know what? That's very cool. My daughter was in a horse show, right? A rated A horse show, which is as good as they get, meaning there's trainers and pros and adults. And she killed it. From Thursday to Saturday, she won show champion.
I saw the pictures on Facebook. You were wearing all the ribbons.
I had to. I was a proud dad, but she beat everybody. I mean, they've been working on this for years, her and her trainer, and she actually got show champion. Isn't that
Excellent.
Cool? So I couldn't be more proud of my kid, Courtney Quashen. That was really awesome. So I spent most of the mornings from Friday to Sunday at the horse show, so I'm not going to – I mean, it was great.
Yeah.
And before we get any further, just quickly, Families in Action is brought to you by your local hometown station, AM 1220 KHTS. We've been on the air almost 13 years, so we're very proud of that. And also by Action Family Counseling, which is alcohol and drug rehabilitation centers. And then the Action Foundation, I'll let you talk a little bit about that real quick.
Well, just like I did last week, Cary, regarding the Action Foundation, there's something very special coming up on Saturday, October the 22nd from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're doing another one of the SCV drug takebacks. So you and I will be out there in front of the hospital. That's Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital. That's at 23845 McBean Parkway. And all you have to do is come by and drop off your drugs, no questions asked. These could be expired drugs that you got in your medicine cabinet. They could be something you threw in your garage, whatever. We take them back.
And we don't care where you got them. If you got them from a pharmacy, if you found them on the street, or if you're somebody that just needs to get rid of something they don't want to have. We don't ask any questions. They're put in a bag, in a box, and the DEA takes them to a special place, and they get incinerated.
And we get lots of them brought back. So join the crowd, and it takes no time. You just pull right up, drop them off, and you are done. This SCV drug takeback is brought to you by Action Family Foundation, which I just mentioned. Also, KHTS AM 1220 is involved, Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital, and the Santa Clarita Valley Sheriff's Department.
There you go. Pretty serious. So you know what? I gotta read this just because this is what I do. Okay.
Yes.
First, there's a tombstone here. And it says James Ziegler, September 27, 46 to August 5th, 2012. My brother Alex Ziegler will lay rest next to my dad Wednesday, October 5th, 2016. So the son lost his life too.
Oh, boy.
To addiction.
Oh.
Both of them.
So sad, Cary.
How sad. I was talking to Mom, Andrea, today, and what a wonderful woman. And I'll tell you, she's I've known her for many, many years, and there's nothing more this woman could have done. She's done everything. She's put him in rehab. She's been there by his side. She's loved him, and as everybody does when we lose somebody, we always say to ourselves, can I have done different, better, or more? And I could tell you this, knowing this family, she could not have done different, better, or more.
And as you said, that's a very common thing. You sit there and think, what could we have done differently? What could we have done better? What more could we have done?
Yeah, and here's just a post on Facebook. This is the hardest post I ever had to make. I am still in shock, and I cannot believe I have to write this, but I want you all to know. I want you all who have messaged, text, left voice messages for myself, Andrea, or Jesse. We have received them. Thank you. Today we learned that my brother Alex Ziegler has passed away. As we go through this unbearable time as a family, we appreciate your love, thoughts, and prayers. If you need to get in touch with me, feel blah, blah, blah. How sad.
Oh, very.
And I was telling Andrea today that every hour, a minimum of 5 people die in this country from an accidental overdose every single hour. And you know what? This is the same thing I've been screaming forever. This kid went to rehab, got sober, and then started using again. And what happens when that happens is our bodies cannot handle what our mind wants, what our mind needs to get back to where we were. And there's so many overdoses, and so many of these overdoses are people that have been sober for a while and decided to use again and they use too much.
They use the same amount they were using before, which is now too much because they've been off of it for a while.
Right, and what happens is when you're addicted to any kind of drugs and you start using, you stop for a while. You need more. You don't need more for your body to get high. You need more for your head to feel what it's looking for, your brain to feel that numbness, that greatness. So that's how people are dying. And it's so tragic. I was on Facebook Friday and I saw that and it just broke my heart. I mean, because I've known this family for so long, and it broke my heart. And my prayers are out to the Ziegler families, and Andrea, you're wonderful, and Jesse, and everybody else. And I'm sorry to hear that. So
wow, what a sad thing.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. And by the way, if anybody ever wants to call in to our show, you can do that by dialing 661-298-5487. That's 661-298-5487.
Yes, because we are going to be talking today. We have some action file items to get to first, but we're going to be talking today because October is National Bullying Awareness Month. And after I read the action file items, Cary, I've got a letter. Actually, it's an article you wrote about bullying.
Right.
And you'll remember this as soon as I start reading it. But you were just talking about overdosing.
You know, I'm really, it's so sad.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I knew Jim. And when he passed away, it was terrible. And now his son, it's just terrible.
Oh my goodness!
How does a family deal with that? But it's really, I'll tell you how you deal with that, by knowing that you did everything that you can possibly do, and I can tell you, Andrea did everything that she could possibly do for her kid.
Yeah. Well, now, here's from the action file. The DEA is warning the public and law enforcement about the risks of opioid carfentanil. Now, we've talked about this a little bit before. This carfentanil is an elephant tranquilizer. It's used in zoos. It's actually used for any large animals, but it's easiest to remember if you say an elephant tranquilizer. Here's what's happening. The Drug Enforcement Administration, the DEA, has issued a warning to the public and law enforcement about the risks of synthetic opioid carfentanil. Carfentanil is 10,000 times more potent than morphine and 100 times more potent than fentanyl and 5,000 times more potent than heroin.
So that means when they're cutting whatever they're doing with this drug, you got some chemists, and really, what do you think these chemists are, right? So these are people that are mixing this up. What if they mix up too much? What if they just put just a little dab too much? You lose your life. Mm-hmm. And it's not just in heroin, Mike. There's bootleg pills out there now that look authentic and real. When you buy them on the streets, you don't really know what's in them.
And we talked about not long ago, they had some deaths and a lot of people going to the emergency department in Sacramento, if you recall. People were getting what they thought was narco tablets, it turned out not to be. And it made a couple of people just fell over dead.
Yeah, there's some real serious drugs out there right now, and it's kind of crazy because I deal with heroin addicts and opiate addicts all the time, right? And they'll all tell you it's Russian roulette. They all know if they continue to use, eventually they're going to be dead.
Well, you used the word crazy a moment ago, and that's exactly what this fellow is saying. Carfentanil is surfacing in more and more communities. This is the DEA acting administrator, Chuck Rosenberg, who said in a news release, we're seeing it on the streets, often disguised as heroin, like you just said. And he said it's crazy dangerous. Synthetics such as fentanyl and carfentanil can kill you, as we talk about on this show.
How many people are dying by the end of this show?
5.
At minimum.
5 minimum.
And those are low numbers, Mike.
Now, what's happening? This is hitting across the country, this carfentanil, and they're not actually sure where it's coming from because zoos only keep a very small amount in stock, and they keep it under lock and key, and it has to be audited very regularly because it's so powerful. So they believe that it's coming from someplace like China or what have you. But here's what's been happening just in Ohio. They are now averaging 20 to 25 carfentanil overdoses a day.
Say that again?
20 to 25 carfentanil overdoses a day in Ohio.
Wow.
My goodness. They've confirmed it in Ohio and Kentucky and other states, and they're starting to try to test for it, but they don't have any human testing data because it's not made for humans. And it's just, this stuff is way out there, folks. I mean, and it's not like the people that are buying it know that the heroin they're getting has carfentanil in it. They don't know that.
Right.
Very, very, very dangerous.
Yeah, it's bad out there. It's always been bad to be addicted to drugs. It's horrible to be addicted to drugs right now with what's going on there.
Oh, it's insane.
The potency of the drugs, number one, the counterfeit drugs, number two, and whoever's cooking this stuff up, it's Russian roulette, guys.
Very much so.
It really is Russian roulette, period. You don't know.
Now, for our parents that are listening to us, here's an interesting action file item. And this came out on Thursday last week. American teens have higher rates of illicit drug use than European peers. American 10th graders have a higher rate of illicit drug use than their European peers. On average, only 18% of the European students have used an illicit drug in their lifetime, compared to 35% of U.S. students in the same age.
I think I know the answer to that.
Wow.
And it's what I always say is you look at social media and look at peer pressure today. I mean, we're going to talk about bullying. Look at bullying. Look at all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
But the average parent, and I'm not talking to you that are listening saying, I talk to my kid hours every day. I'm talking to, in general, the average parent in this country, I can't speak for Europe because I'm not there.
Right.
But in this country, the average parent spends between 2 and 10 minutes with their child.
Say that again now?
The average parents spend between 2 and 10 minutes with their child
a day
today. They're 12-year-old and up.
Oh.
And here's how it goes. How was your day? Was good. Have any homework? I done it. Are you hungry? I ate. And they're right back into their bedrooms. And what are they doing? They're on their cell phones or their computers or whatever it is on social media talking to who? Their friends. The very last thing a 14-year-old or 15 or 13 or 22-year-old does before they go to sleep, the very, very last thing is check their social media.
And
period.
Many of them are sleeping with it.
Yes, period. Oh, yeah, they sleep with their phones and their stuff. Their first thing they do before they roll out of bed to use the restroom is check their social media and see what's going on. So they go to sleep with their friends. They wake up with their friends. They come out. If they have breakfast with you or not, it's a couple-minute deal. They're off to school with who? Their friends again. They come home to, most of them, an empty house. There's mom and dad working or divorced or whatever the deal is, right? And who's waiting for them? Their friends. If not in person, social media. Again, we come home, that 2-minute conversation happens, they're back in their room with their friends. So the whole dynamic of family and all that stuff has changed so dramatically in the last 10 or 20 years when it comes to social media and friends and peer pressure. All those corny little sayings, families that play together and eat together and pray together and all that stuff, those families do good. Those kids do good. It's not happening anymore. They're spending more times with their friends than they have ever spent with us as parents.
Right, and they need the direction.
So what happens is their friends become the most important thing in their world for good reason, Mike.
Yeah.
They're with them always. They go to bed with them, and they wake up with them. They're with them all day long. What do you think? Who's going to rub off more, family or their friends?
And you said something interesting a couple of weeks ago about used to be when you ask kids what their number one.
You know what? I've been doing this for a really long time. We'll leave it at that.
Okay.
And if I went into the assemblies at Canyon High School, we'll use for an example, and I did 20 years ago. And I said, what's the most important thing in your world? I guarantee you 20 years ago, almost every kid in that room said, my family. I go in these same rooms today and I ask the same question. I guarantee you almost every kid in that room says now my friends. It's changed it's dramatically changed because of social media and stuff. Go to a restaurant. You'd be sitting there watching people. Everyone's on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
The moms are checking their phones to see how many Facebook posts they get. The kids are doing their thing and the dads are like, okay, whatever. So it's even when we're together, we're not together.
Yeah, and that's a real easy one to solve. We had
it's not that easy. I mean, we think
well now wait a minute.
Awareness. We can bring awareness, but people don't change habits real easy.
Because we went out to dinner with our oldest granddaughter and a friend of hers just the other week, and before we went to the restaurant, I just said no cell phones at the table, and they honored that. No problem. Well, no problem.
But that's because you said it.
But that meant I couldn't do it, and my wife couldn't do it. But then we don't. So
all right. Well, but if you walk in, like I said, walk into a restaurant, and the parents are just as guilty as the children.
They sure are.
They're checking their Facebooks and their Twitters and their whatever it is that they're doing. So what does that say to our kids? It's like my Facebook and all this stuff is maybe a little more important than you are at this moment.
Right. No, so you're right. That's not an exaggeration.
We have to be the role model. We have to be the example. We
sure
have
do.
to do that stuff.
Cary, a good thing happened last week in Sacramento. You're going to like this one. You probably already heard about it. The state of California passes a suicide prevention law. California is now the first state in the country to require suicide prevention policies in middle schools and high schools statewide. This was Assembly Bill 2246, Suicide Prevention Policies in School, authored by Assemblyman Patrick O'Donnell. Thank you, Patrick. The new law requires local district schools to adopt unique suicide prevention and intervention and follow-up plans for students in grades 7 to 12. And you know what? We deal with this all the time in the behavioral health unit at Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital.
We do.
And of the three ways that you can come in, the number one thing that we see, mostly what we see, are people with suicide ideation, which means they've either attempted it or they're planning to commit suicide. So a suicide prevention law like this for children for grades 7 to 12, I should say, is excellent.
We gotta stop the suicide rate. That's for sure. And we gotta give hope and light to some of these kids that are not feeling it. So I mean, but we're very, very fortunate here in Santa Clarita. There's a lot of programs that are in place. I was talking to Larry Shallard, for instance, over at COC.
Yeah.
What a great program they have there.
They sure do.
We have the Child and Family Center. We have Action. We have all kinds of programs up here that are there for anyone that needs it. So, but we have to get the word out more. That's for sure. There's a lot of people out there suffering.
We do, and that's a great segue to what we're going to be talking about today, because October is National Bullying Awareness Month. And back in October 30th of 2008, you wrote the following article. You said, I can remember standing in a schoolyard screaming a childhood refrain, "Sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me." In retrospect, as an adult and a high-risk teen counselor, I know that's not true. I know that bullying leaves bruises on the inside and sometimes for a lifetime. Bullying leaves everyone bruised, both kids and parents. And then you went on to say, and this ties in with what we were just talking about, my heart breaks for the parents and friends of Jeremiah Lassiter, the 14-year-old Vasquez high school freshman who took his own life. Parents, teens, and teachers had publicly shared their stories about the bullying Lassiter endured, and he ended up killing himself.
You look at children, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't have all the tools necessary to deal with feelings that come up. It's not quite developed yet. So when you're 13 or 14 or 15 or whatever age, 12, 7, 6, and people start picking on you and you don't have what you need to be able to put it into perspective and not give people that kind of power, it's devastating to children.
Yeah, and it can start at any age. And I know we have to take a break shortly here, Cary, but when we come back from the break, I want to tell you a story about something that happened to me. And you don't know this about me, but I was a victim of bullying in grade school. And I'll tell you about that when we come back.
Take us on break.
Okay, we'll be back with more Families in Action. We are talking about October's National Bullying Awareness Month right here on KHTS AM 1220, your hometown station.